So, guys, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is basically the whole layout of this 12-team playoff. And I've got basically three questions, but we might end up just sort of merging all of them into one anyway. We'll see how it goes when we get there. One of the criticisms, actually, a few of the criticisms of this 12-team playoff is the same as it was last year. The 12 teams that made it in, are they the right 12 teams? Just like last year were the top four teams, were they the ones who should have made it in? Florida State obviously had some exception to that. We also want to talk about the conference championships. Are they still working? And the bye week. Did the bye week have any impact on how this whole national championship has been playing out, how the playoff run has been playing out? But let's go back to the top four teams. Given that the top four teams lost in the quarterfinals, do you guys think that is the ranking system broken, or is the ranking system working exactly the way it should?
The ranking system is fine. The seeding system is what sucks.
Okay, why don't you explain that?
The final college football playoff rankings had Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Indiana, Boise State, SMU, Alabama, Arizona State. Clemson won the ACC, so they'll get in over Alabama. All right, fine. Arizona State won their conference, so they'll get in. What they should have done is that the conference championship guarantees you a spot in the playoffs, but it doesn't guarantee you a top four spot. And I'm kind of stealing this from Josh Pate, Joel Klatt, and someone else mentioned this. I can't remember who, but I completely agree with it. I think that the conference championship gets you in, but I don't think there's a world where you can say that Arizona State actually deserved like a top four spot.
I would say that get rid of conference championship weekend, have the that final weekend in November in the final AP poll determine the rankings for the playoff, like the top 12 in the AP poll, they get in the playoff, and let's even say they go to 16 teams. The top 16 in the AP poll get in the playoffs, and the top two get home field advantage, get rid of bowl games, get rid of conference championships, have the playoffs start that first or second weekend in December. I mean, in a way, we're already in a pro format. Players are getting paid millions of dollars. Why not take it a step further to a 16-team playoff? And here's the other thing about the bowl games. Like, what are bowl games worth in the college football playoff now? It's just one step towards another goal. So why not have home field advantage throughout the playoffs? Like, you're going to someone else's stadium to play, and have these smaller schools be able to get in these bowl games who can build revenue for their school. I'd be on board with that.
I did actually hear, and I'm trying to remember which game I was watching that I heard this, but the bowl games, because I've thought of the same thing, that the bowl games tend to not matter. Now that we have a playoff system, it's, what does it matter if you make it to the ReliaQuest Bowl, for example? I don't know who was there, but just out of the top of my head there, the ReliaQuest Bowl, what does the game really matter? And what they've said is that the game still matters to the players, because they look at it as a chance to get ready for the next year at the very least.
I'm saying, keep the bowl games, let smaller schools, who would normally be in like the Mayo Ketchup Bowl or something, be able to play in the Rose Bowl. And, the teams that get in the playoffs, let's say like Notre Dame and Oregon are the top two teams next season. Notre Dame and Oregon have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and kind of like the NFL seeding. The wild card, whoever has the better record in the wild card round, they host a playoff game, kind of like what we saw the first week of the college football playoffs. But that's just a continuous thing throughout the playoff rounds. No more of this neutral field.
I lean more towards I think it's just the automatic bids were wrong. I don't believe that Boise State should have had a bye ahead of other programs or other teams. The same for it would be Arizona State. I think there's a problem there. I think once you get past the top four, it's subjective, and I think we got led into a situation where I thought after the championship week, Ohio State should have been the fifth seed. I thought that the only reason Ohio State wasn't the fifth seed is because of when they lost and who they lost to at that point in time. But I don't think anyone thought at that moment in time that Ohio State still wasn't better than Texas at the end of the season, even with that loss to Michigan. Overall, I haven't really had any problem with it. Outside of that, they want to fix it. At the end of the day, uh, out outside of the Ohio State Texas game, FPI picked every single winner, and every team that was higher rated or had the higher rated defense won their game. So in all reality, we are what we're supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know that playoffs are meant to weed out the weaker teams out of the top teams because obviously a lot of people have been saying that, and I don't agree with this, but people are saying like Ohio State, if they win the national championship, they're not undefeated, so it's not as big as the ones who have won undefeated. But that's not necessarily the case because going to the NFL, there's only been one NFL team that's been undefeated that's won the Super Bowl.
Here's the other thing about that statement that I don't agree with. When the BCS era was still around and Ohio State got to the national championship, Ted Ginn Jr. and Troy Smith, and then how many losses did that Florida team have with Urban Meyer? Like 1 or 2? And they blew the doors off of Ohio State. Was that not a legitimate natty? Did they not belong there? Like that's just why I don't agree with that statement.
Well, you don't have to worry about hearing it from me, but I did get something special for Garrison. The playoff system is ranked against Oregon. Every year that Oregon is amazing, we absolutely get destroyed at some point. And Dyer was down. Anyways. Yeah, no, I don't know what the good way to fix this is. I agree. I think the buys, I think get rid of the buys completely because it does. When you think like people say, hey, they get an extra week off. Well, like look at Ohio State. They didn't play in the championship game. Oregon did. Really, you got about the same amount of time off anyways.
No, you did.
Ohio State got to kind of warm up with the Tennessee game. Now, I'm not saying that we're not using rust as an excuse, but when you go back to previous years of playing like the Rose Bowl, those two teams generally were off the same amount of time and didn't play a game like a Tennessee game. And then, why do not the top teams then have the home and field advantage?
I do believe you guys should have had one, but I think that has more to do with money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's the bowl. That's the bowl tie-in thing. That's the whole problem with it because when the seeding was initially agreed upon, it was all the conference commissioners, including the Pac-12 and Notre Dame, because they're freaking special. Well, the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. So that actually threw the system kind of out of whack a little bit, not having that fifth conference. I think that's kind of what threw it all out of the loop where you got Boise State, for instance, instead of another Power 5 conference champion.
I think the Group of Five should have their own tournament.
There should be relegation.
I wouldn't be mad at that if they did that. Like in terms of like P4 and P5, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. In the beginning of this playoff, and maybe it's just people want to hate on James Franklin and Penn State, but we had people out here talking about Boise State being Penn State, and I'm wondering to myself, how crazy are you people? They don't belong. They don't.
Penn State or
no? Boise State didn't belong.
Boise State. No.
Did.
But okay, but that's where I'm like, okay, they won their conference. Reward them. Sure, give them a spot. But that's all. Just give them the spot. Don't give them the top spot because there's no world where Boise State's resume, you can look at that and say, okay, Boise State is definitely a top 4 team. We should give them a bye week. No, if they're really that good, let them earn it. But they did nothing through the regular season except for Ashton Genty being a revelation at the running back position. They did nothing else to suggest that they deserve a 1 through 4 spot. But the problem is that the at that point, the regular season is so subjective. And then you're just kind of taking this whole like strength of record resume type thing. And you have to compare them against different teams. Who's got the better record? Well, I don't know, probably the team with the most ranked wins has the better record. But at that point, are those ranked wins just ranked wins because they were ranked at the time? Are those teams still ranked? Did we overrank them? Everything is subjective. That's why I think they need to incorporate relegation, and then they need to just have the Power 4 turn into the NFC and AFC of the NFL.
Yeah, how about we get rid of resumes and we just go by a pro system where resumes don't matter. It's going to be where your record is at the end of the year, or just like the NFL, at a certain point of the season, you get eliminated from the playoffs. And at a certain point of the season, you clinch a top seed.
Well, again, they have to they have to redo this in a couple years. I know they're gonna try to expand it because the SEC and complain. The SEC strength of record that went out the window in the postseason, didn't it? Absolutely went down the drain.
Yeah.
So I mean, and here we go next year. Let's see how many are in the top 10 because I've seen about 5 already. I'm like, okay, come on, guys, you all lost your bowl games. Shut the hell up.